Lee, very entertaining game for the neutral, I would say. What was your take on it?
Yeah, I'd agree. It sort of ebbed and flowed. Two good teams, I thought, going at it. We obviously got the upper hand to begin with. First 20 we were pretty good, to be fair. We had sort of Halifax on the ropes a little bit. Obviously we're only 8-0, so scoreboard wise, you know, you're not really in a massive ascendancy. And it was just one little key aspect. I think we lost a tackle, gave a penalty away the following play, then had to defend 3 sets in a row and then conceded. So it just takes a different complexion on things then, and from then on I thought Halifax had the better of us probably for the back end of the first half. Second was a bit more to and fro. You know, I thought it was even, like I say, ebbed and flowed in shorter periods. Everyone would have been forgiven for thinking once Halifax go 8 in front, then obviously that's probably game over. But no, it was good to see the character mainly. There were long patches of good performance in there as well, but certainly the character of the team came through, and I hope that everyone saw that as well.
You mentioned over the first half you had some of it your way, Halifax had it theirs. What was your message at half time to your players?
Obviously just go back to what was working in the first 20 minutes. Keep it pretty simple. It was the discipline really. The first 20 minutes I don't think we gave a penalty away, so Halifax didn't really have any attacking positions, whereas the second 20 we did give penalties away. We were doing the same type of kicks, finishing the sets like we were previously, but we were giving the penalties away, which on any field, but certainly ours, you end up on your try line defending, and that's what we did. And that's the hardest place to defend. It saps you of energy. And Halifax are a good team. When they play the ball, speed's quick, and when you're on your own line, I dare say they're possibly the best team in the division with their attacking threats they've got. So yeah, we had to weather the storm. We had to come back, which we did. Deservedly went back in front. Then a couple of bits we got slightly wrong. Like I said, put Halifax 8 in front, and everyone had been forgiven to think that was game over. But no, it was good to see.
Yeah, how far does that show that your side has come? Do you think that being 8 points down in the closing stages and you had that character to come back?
We've done it previously. We did it against Toulouse at home. We were a couple of scores down and never gave in and came back. So it's always been in the team anyway. Obviously that is a pleasing aspect, especially when you're losing players left, right and centre in different positions and having to reshuffle every couple of minutes. So that were a good thing to see, that people could just fill in. People that should have come off, shouldn't have played as long as what they did, had to do in the end. But that's rugby. You know, when you're watching a lot of games now at all levels, people are coming off injured or whatever in different positions, and you're having to reshuffle. So the lads now, I think, understand that some bits you're going to have to tough this out, even if that means that you're going to miss the next game because you've had to really put yourself through it. And then other times people are going to have to go into different positions, but we've got enough smart players that can do that, and they did that today.
Yeah, we noticed Tom Holmes a bit early on seemed to be struggling. Was he one of those players you're talking about in that sense? Yeah,
he did his best to carry on. The message came on quite early that Holmes needs to come off. But at that point we just thought, let's keep him out there, even as just a body. If he can hide it well, then Halifax might not pressure him as much. It became a bit more obvious and a bit too obvious that he was struggling in the second half, and Halifax were catching him out a little bit. So we had to make the move there. Listen, we've had disruption anyway. I mean, 2 games ago we thought we'd finally got a settled sort of set of pivots with Jordan, George or Chico coming in at 9, with Holmes and Patton at half-back and Walker at full-back. Since then we've lost Walker. We've then slotted Billy into half-back, then we lost him last week. So we were reshuffling a little bit this week anyway, and then to lose people as you were going on, yeah. It is what it is. We cracked on and we found a way to get back in the game, and I think we deserved at least a point from that game today.
One player you mentioned there, James Seguiara, how much of an influence did he have on that game, do you think?
Yeah, I mean obviously I say win the sort of penalty to finish it, but it's good to just have smart players. So in any position, when it sort of becomes off the cuff like it did in that last minute, the way he sees the game it's like it's in slow motion compared to others, and you see others sprinting around and he just sees it in a different way. So if they don't take him out, he's got every chance of getting to that ball. He's just really sharp in his mind, and that's why he's played at such a high level for a long time. So it's good to just have him in your locker, can play in different positions. He'd literally play any position for us, which is good.
And just finally, it's rare that we get draws in rugby league at the moment. Does it feel like it's a fair reflection of how that game went?
Yeah, probably. I mean, obviously we're going to be more pleased with it because we're the ones that have equalised in the last sort of minute or so. But I think over the 80 minutes, I think it's the minimum we deserved from that. I thought there were a lot of good patches, and like I said, we had to do it quite tough with people coming on and off and switching positions. There were a bit of confusion at the end. People were thinking it were extra time. People didn't have a clue what were going on. So that's why it maybe felt a little bit flat at the end, because people weren't quite sure what were going on. Even the ref started questioning himself because that many people asked it. But yeah, we'll take the point from where we're at at certain points in that game, scoreboard wise and body wise. We'll certainly take the point and move on.
Thanks, Lee.
Thank you.
What is the problem with is it knee?
Yeah, he's struggled with it for a while now, and he'll probably struggle with it for a while longer. Sometimes he's sort of going down in games, but it's just locking, so he can just carry on. Other times, it's probably going to cause him a problem like it did today, and he can't carry on. That doesn't mean it's anything severe, but we'll just have to see how it responds during the week. But obviously, it hurts you when your fullback's got to go off.
And you mentioned your pivot to Cowes Jarrett. What's the latest situation?
Yeah, we're not sure. There's no fracture, which is what the immediate worry was. We didn't know if he'd had a lower leg fracture, but he hasn't. So it's definite just ligament damage. We don't know how severe it is, but it seems to have improved this week. It doesn't feel as bad as what it did on Sunday. So we're hopeful it's going to be short term, week, 2 week. But yeah, I'm not a medical professional, so I'm not quite sure how long it'll be with Billy, but hopefully soon.
Michael Lawrence got quite an engine on him and a fair bit of speed actually as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's top 10.
Tackle in the second half.
It's a team you want to play in now. When the lads are looking at different people's efforts, so that's now 3 games in a row where one of our front rowers has done that, and it's contagious. Some of the things that you see, so people want to be that guy that does that chases back. People aren't leaving it to other people to do things. We're trying to get them to be proactive with things rather than reactionary and moaning about it after. And that's what we saw. I'm confident that if Michael hadn't have done that, it'd have been someone else covering across and doing it. But yeah, he's a proper athlete, great professional is Michael, and he's been as frustrating as anyone that he's been out for a while and missed so many games. He feels a bit of an imposter. Well, he has done, because he's come here to play, and he generally does play games. So he's felt a bit, it felt great for him, missing so many games, and then sort of having him in the squad but not quite being ready to go. So to come in, and that wasn't the plan, obviously, for him to play so long. But when your fullback goes off, other people are going off. We lost Bodie and Thompson, who couldn't come back on. Fenton Rogers then went off and couldn't come back on. So it almost seemed like any time you were looking at Michael coming off for a spell, someone else was going down who had to come off at that minute. But he's done 77 minutes. And when we thought we were going to go to extra time, he's thinking, well, he was thinking it was going to extra time, and he's saying, get me back on, which is a mark of the man, but a mark of what we've got in the squad of people just wanting to tip in for each other.
What's the problem with Fenton Rogers and Bodie Thompson?
I think it was shoulder for Fenton. With Bodie, it was a chest sort of sternum knock, so they'll probably have to get x-rayed and have a look at it. But yeah, we came off hoping that we might be able to get a bit of a painkilling injection and that'd turn it round, but it didn't. So he couldn't go back out. Once Fenton came off, he couldn't. Clearly Holmes wasn't going to go back out there. So yeah, there were a bit of management going on and just juggling people around and doing what we needed to do.
Lee, is it a point won or a point lost? I asked Simon the same question.
Well, clearly it's going to be a point loss for them because they were winning in 79th minute. For us it's a point won because we were the ones that were behind and brought it back. But if you look at it over the course of 80 minutes, we at least deserved a point out of that, for the character shown, for the periods of play we put on them. But LFX are a good team, and we've taken them on with a hell of a lot of disruption there during the 80 minutes, and we found a way to come back, and for me it's a deserved point.
How pleased were you with that fight back? You're down by 2 scores, 10 minutes to go, and you've rescued a point. Yeah,
the lads found a way. Obviously at times this year we've not done that and just sort of crumbled. There's been a couple of occasions where we have, like to lose at home, we've come back and found a way to do it. But we're pleasing how we just sort of stuck to what we've been working on and talking about. We just, once we went 8 points behind, we didn't panic and start throwing balls around and giving penalties away and stuff like that. We didn't lose our heads. We kept it composed, kept doing what we'd been doing, and we knew we'd get a chance at some point, and we did, and we took it.
It was 25 minutes before Halifax had to play the ball in the Bradford 20-metre line. That just shows you the defence was energised, and there was a lot of effort there in restricting Halifax's momentum.
There was, but that were more due to where we finished our sets. That were pretty much, Halifax having to start the set right on their own line, and then we didn't give any penalties away. That was the key part behind it. The moment we lost one play, the ball gave one penalty away, is when they went on our try line then. And they got like 3 sets in a row and then scored the first one. And Halifax are a good side. So they score points against anyone, certainly if you give them the field position to do that, and if you allow them to have the ruck speed. So there were patches when we did give them that, but generally I thought we did a good job on their threats and what they tried to do to us today. First 25, I won't say near on perfection, but really good in what we were trying to do. Scoreboard only said 8-0, so it was always tight, and you felt like Halifax, if they score next, then it's obviously just wipes it all out, that hard work. But that's how quick things can change in this game. You've got to be good when you're under the pump a little bit. I'd have obviously preferred us not to concede that try and the one after, where we've just clocked off a little bit on that side. There was a repeat of that in the second half as well, very similar try where they've gone back to that left side. So there's technical things we'll look at, but overall pleased with the sort of attitude that we've come back with. So the two pleasing aspects really: the attitude to start the game off. They were patient and showed there that what we've been working on does really work, and then obviously the way they've just found a way themselves really to get back into it later on.
How important was that start to the second half, especially when you look on the final 15 minutes of the first half when Halifax sort of slowed your momentum down and they got those 2 tries with Matty G and James Saltonstone?
Yeah, well, that was the challenge. We were almost limped to half time really. We were struggling a little bit. We weren't quite doing what we'd done at the start of the game, so we just challenged everybody, and we challenged different people in there to be a little bit better than that. And when you are tired, rather than think about yourself and go into self-preservation mode, just think about what's actually better for the team here. And I thought generally we did that across the second half, and like I say, really good character, and nice to see that come back towards the end. And maybe I wouldn't have quite been saying it the same if we hadn't have brought it back, but I'd have still been positive about a lot of the things I saw today, even if we didn't get the result.
It was noticeable to me after about 5-10 minutes. Tom Holmes was limping on his right knee, right ankle, but he stayed out on the field. But ultimately, he had to go off in the second half, and that forced you to put Jordan Lilly at fullback.
Yeah, I mean, most teams have anyway, but certainly us, we've got quite a few players that have had injuries at certain points in this season. So sometimes they limp around and have a bit of a knock. You've got to leave them out there a little bit, because you could bring them off and it's something of nothing, but obviously because they've had an existing injury, sometimes in the head they think I've done it again or whatever it might be. So you try to give people a chance. You don't want to waste those subs, certainly when it's as hot as it was out there. And Tom was still doing a decent job. He was still catching the kick, still talking, doing the right thing, and we knew it'd disrupt things as soon as you moved him. So we were trying to leave him out there. If he'd have done a similar limping round job in the second half, we'd have probably left him out there again. But it got to a point where it was just too obvious, and Halifax had started pressurising him a little bit, and it was costing us. So we went with decision of putting Jordan back there, who was also limping at that point when we moved him back. So it was a bit crazy really. But yeah, Jordan did a great job. Chico's smart enough to go out there, and I thought George Flanagan had his best game of the season today. So it was no panic moving that shuffle round. It was just more, it cost us that substitution in the middle that we were thinking about.
On the injury, is it too early to say if he's potentially ruled out or in doubt for the trip to Toulouse?
I've no idea. I mean, anyone that limps around in the previous game or comes off is obviously going to be in doubt for your next one. But I'm going to stop saying it, because we've said someone's going to be out for ages and then they're back, and then we've said someone's all right, no worries, and then they're out for a bit. So yeah, we'll see how people are. They'll see Grace, our physio, speak to her tonight. They'll see her tomorrow, and then we'll know more by Tuesday on what we can do for Toulouse next week.
How important was the crowd, Lee? You know, I've got to be brutally honest. perhaps a little bit biased, but that's the loudest I've heard Odsal all season in that final 15, you know, the war cry, come on you Bulls. How much of an impact has that had, you feel, on motivating your players to chase and overturn that, or attempt to overturn that 8-point deficit?
I'm not sure about that. I mean, obviously I'm focused on the game a little bit, so you don't always hear it. But I think the supporters respond to what they see on the field. So when they can see the lads really putting a shift in, they see front rowers after 60 minutes chasing a winger down the sideline. They see people really trying, getting your kicks in. You know, they see the things, the efforts the players are putting in, and they respond. And then likewise, then the players like that. There's no getting away from it. You'd much rather hear that than the booing or shouting at individuals. So yeah, that's up to us to make sure that they want to continue like that, supporting us and getting behind us. We know that you can get this place rocking when you get it right, and that's our intention.
Unbeaten in 5 now, Lee. Obviously, a crucial point probably to say. I mean, it's still early, probably too early to say how crucial this point could be, but just on the incident itself and Seguiaro kicking over the top and Adam Tangata texts him out. They spoke to Simon Griggs. He's quite filthy. You know, that's ultimately cost him the game, but that's ultimately, you know, won you a point. Yeah,
he's going to be filthy with his own player, I think. But yeah. Once someone kicks and you take them out off there and you're wrapping your arms around, then it's going to be a penalty. So he is going to be. I would be if it was the other way around. We would be if it was 79th minute. We've been in front by 8, then in front by 2, and we're nearly there. We'd be exactly the same. But yeah, it is what it is. I'm sure at another point in the season we'll lose or draw something later on, and it's just how it is. You know, I'll only look at my own team. I'm obviously really pleased with how we've come back into that, shown a bit of character, obviously clearly, just to get through the game, stay in there, and then pull the scoreboard back. But thoroughly deserved from my end.
Just one final one from me. Before the game, Billy Jowitt's on the terracing talking to the fans. He's in the shorts, he's not on crutches, he's not got anything on the knee. That's obviously a good sign.
Oh yeah, it's better than obviously being on crutches and in a wheelchair, but we'll just have to see. He hasn't obviously trained since then, so it's a different ball game to just walking around and feeling okay to then actually running, training, getting tackled on it. So we'll just have to wait and see. But what we don't want to do is rush people back too soon just because we feel like we need it. It's a long season, even though we're into the second half of it. There's still plenty of games left and hopefully a playoff series to go. So what we don't want to do is just because a couple of players might be out next week, is chuck Billy in when he's totally nowhere near, and then he gets injured and is out for the rest of the year. Like we've done with Michael. Michael's been able to put that stint in because we were patient, not putting him straight back in, and he's pulled up totally good. Really happy with obviously what he's done today, and that's what we want to be like, rather than just chucking people in when they're not ready.
Well, you mentioned Michael there. Lee, obviously he's done 80 minutes, but I don't think many people expect him to, and obviously brilliant tackle to save a try on Woburn Hall as well. I mean, how impressed were you that not only did he put in 80 minutes, but he put that performance in as well?
Yeah, 76. He come off with a few minutes
at
to go.
the end, yeah.
But you were thinking it was going to be extra time once we kicked the penalty goal, so you were like begging for me to put him back on. I said I don't think it actually is, but none of us actually knew what was going on at that point. But yeah, a good shift. That was not the plan. When you've been out for so long, you don't want certainly a middle forward to be on the pitch that long. The plan was to just spell him like the rest of your middle forwards, but at each sort of point you felt like wanting to do that, someone was coming off or we were getting the message back saying they need to come off. So we had to keep him on there every time, and that's obviously what we did, and it's a mark of his professionalism and fitness that he could do that. Definitely,
you saw that freshman with James as well. I mean, really, he was saying last week to Harry that he's sort of not quite there yet because he'll take time to get up to speed, but looking at him today I thought he was outstanding in different positions as well. Just he seems to really have that touch of class and a little bit extra. He's got that sort of NRL sort of pass behind him that really shows, doesn't it, on the field?
Yeah, I mean he is. He's a player of obviously quality. You don't play the games at the levels he's done without having something about you. If you play NRL at a pivotal position, generally you're pretty smart, and he is. You could see that from the first session. The way he draws people in his hands and stuff. So it's good to have someone like that who's adaptable and can go in different positions.
And obviously you saw with Seguiaro and Lawrence, two of the older statesmen. It felt like a very experienced starting line he put out today. Was that with a sort of derby factor in mind? I think other than Kevin Apple, everyone was 26 or over. It felt like the lads that were in just at that nous and sort of rugby league know-how about them from the start?
Well, I mean, if you look at it, I think 1 to 10 was actually in number order.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know if we've had that all season, but that on squad numbers, we weren't far off actually 1 to 17. So that's what we were intending to go not far off with at the start of the season. Obviously, people have come back at different times. We've lost certain people. There's been some disruption, but people were generally in the positions that they would sort of be in, and what we wanted them to be in at the start of the season. So it wasn't intentional to just go, right, let's get all the old guys out there and put us all this team out we possibly could. That we're far from it. We go with what we think is going to start as the game well, what we think is going to make an impact coming off the bench, and then that's what we went with, and I thought it generally worked.
Yeah, and the announcer mentioned before the game that Dean was sort of playing memory of his granddad. Obviously, rugby league's about more than just the players and the skill and ability. How pleased are you for him that he sort of did such a good job in such trying personal circumstances, and obviously how big a job is that for coaches to sort of put their arms around players when they're going through something in their personal life?
Yeah, well, I think the game's a lot, just life I think is generally more open, and people are happy to share that with you, and it's good then that you know and you're aware of it and you can keep an eye on people. There'll be all sorts of stories in there. Some people won't have shared stuff that'll be close to them. Obviously it's Father's Day today, so you've seen some people walk out with their children. You've seen others that can't walk out with their children because they're not here with them. Some people might not have the father still around, so there'll be all sorts of different stories on that pitch from everybody, and that's sport in general, and if it gives them that extra reason to perform well, then good for them.
And obviously, cutting off, mate, Brian was obviously we're commentating on the Challenge Cup today. How big a challenge that for you, obviously not having Brian alongside you? Do you feel like it was in some ways quite nice to sort of be on your own, or do you miss him? I think he was your right hand man.
Yeah, we were a lot quieter and more peaceful in that box up there, that's for sure, rather than Brian going mad. No, listen, we've just mucked in, haven't we? That's what we've sort of done since we've taken over. We didn't know at the start if it'd just be one game a week or whatever, and we've just literally taken it week to week. There'll be some times that Brian can't make it. He's stepped in on a voluntary advisory role that we were doing before. Obviously he's got all the commitments that he'd already committed to generally. We'd had senior players working the touchline. We'd had Michael Lawrence doing it, George Flanagan doing it. They ended up playing, so that meant then head of youth steps up to headset. We bring one of the voluntary staff in to help running the water and stuff like that. It's a big team effort, but I think across the board that's sort of galvanised everybody, that it doesn't really matter if I miss, if Brian misses, if a player misses, everyone just slots in and works for each other. And
just the last one from me, Lee, does it feel like, even though you were winning twice, you were 8 down with Tom Holmes off, for example, does it feel like a point gained in the end, especially because it keeps facts that arm's length away?
It does, just because you were the team that were behind.
Yeah.
So obviously once you've been 8 behind, you're going to take a draw right here with 10 minutes to go. So yeah, point gained, but thoroughly deserved.
Great stuff.